Okay, boys and girls, we're starting a new unit about numerical expressions. This is an equation, and there is an order to solving equations. So normally when we see a problem like this, 8 times 3 plus 4 divided by 2, we would normally just solve it from left to right because we do not know the order of operations. Let me see what happens when I solve it straight across. 8 times 3 is 24, plus that 4 divided by 2. Okay, so I just turned the 8 times 3 into 24 there. Now I would do 24 plus 4, which is 28, and then I have divided by 2, and that would equal 14. So, although this might look correct, it is completely wrong. And my numbers are all correct, but I did not follow the order of operations. So, we cannot solve problems from left to right. Our whole life we've been doing that. But now we are going to learn about the order of operations. This has to be solved in a specific order in order to get the correct answer. So we have to follow an order called PEMDAS. PEMDAS. What does that stand for? Well, each letter tells you what you need to do next. So whenever you have problems with a series of operations, this has multiplication, addition, and division. We have to follow the order of operations. So the P stands for parentheses. If there was something in parentheses, I would do that first, but there isn't any. The E stands for exponents, which I have listed right here. First parentheses, then exponents. There are no exponents. Then I would do MD, which is multiply and divide from the left to the right. And there is multiplication and division here, so I would actually have to do that step. After I do that step, multiply and divide from the left to the right, then I would add and subtract from the left to the right. So I like to use PEMDAS as a little checklist. So I'm going to write it right here. PEMDAS. PEMDAS. I remember it by saying, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." So let's look at this problem and we'll try and go over it together. The first thing I need to do is the P step. So I have to look. Is there any parentheses? Nope, there's no parentheses. I finished that step. Now I have to follow up with the next one, which is exponents. Do I see any exponents? Remember, exponents are the little numbers in the air that tell you how many times to multiply a number. We see it when we do volume and area with squared and cubed. There's a little 2 or 3 in the air. Those are called exponents. When I look over here, there's no exponents. Okay, I finished that step. I didn't have to do anything. Now I'm up to the next 2 letters, multiply and divide. So I have to multiply and divide from the left to the right. So look, right here there's multiplication. I have to do that. And I have to divide. So I have to do this as well. It's kind of like the game Tetris. After you use something, it disappears and there's a new number there. So first I'll do 8 times 3, which is 24. Then over here I had division, which is 4 divided by 2. That's just 2. This plus sign wasn't being used, so it just falls down right in the middle. So I used the 8 times 3 to multiply, and it turned into 24. And I used the 4 divided by 2 to divide, and it turned into 2. So now I'm left with 2 integers. I have 24 plus 2. And the plus sign comes down because it was not used. So 24 plus 2. Okay, so I multiplied and I divided. The next step is add and subtract. Well, there's only addition left. So 24 plus 2 is 26. And we just solved this in the correct way. If you remember before, our answer was different. So when you solve it in the correct order, you will get the correct answer. So it's very important to write down PEMDAS and solve them in the correct order. Let's try another one. Erase that because I'm starting over. All right, next problem. Let's try this. We'll start off pretty simple. 4 times 8 divided by 2. 8. Okay, so here's our new expression. We have 4 times 8 in parentheses divided by 2 plus 8. So I'm going to follow the order of operations again. First, I'm going to do what's in parentheses. Although, yes, that's multiplication, but it's in parentheses, so I'm going to do that first. So parentheses, I'm going to check it off, and I'm going to solve what's in parentheses. 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, I've finished with that. Everything else falls down. The divided by sign comes down, the 2, the plus, and the 8. Okay. So now I'm up to my next step. Exponents. Well, there are no exponents, so I'm just going to check that off as if it's done. My next step is multiply and divide from the left to the right. Well, there's no multiplication, but there is division. So let me do the division. 32 divided by 2 is 16. All right, I finished with that. I'll bring everything else down. The plus sign and the 8 come down. All right, the only thing left is to add and subtract. Well, there's no subtraction, so I'm just going to add. 16 plus 8 is 24. And I just use the order of operations to solve. One more example. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit difficult because you guys aren't familiar with this. This is new. 6 minus 3 times 2 plus 4. Okay. So some of you are looking and saying, I've never seen these before. Well, those are called braces. We have brackets, braces, and parentheses. So, what we do first is we start with the parentheses on the inside. And this is a little challenging. So, the first step is parentheses. I'm going to check that off because I'm going to do the parentheses right now. 3 times 2 is 6. So I finished with that set of parentheses. It's gone. Everything else has to fall down. So this bracket's going to come down. And then I still have the 6 out front, and I have that bracket still there. The only thing I used was that set of parentheses, and I got rid of it. But I still didn't get rid of these braces yet. So plus 4, everything else fell down. So now this is just like another set of parentheses. We're going to do those now. I start on the innermost parentheses, and then I work my way out. So now this is my next set of parentheses called braces. 6 minus 6 is 0. So this is going to turn into 0. Now I'm finished with that. That's all gone. I did that set of parentheses. Everything else will fall down again. All right. There was no exponents. There's no multiplication anymore. There's no division. The only thing left to do is add and subtract, and I only have to add. This would turn into 4. This is probably the most challenging type of question you will see, where there are more than one set of parentheses, but they cannot make them look the same. So the innermost set will always look like this. You complete those first. Once those are gone, don't forget to bring down your brackets, braces, and continue the process. And then you do these as parentheses. And then after you finish all the parentheses, then you can move through the next few steps of the order of operations. I also attached another video from Khan Academy that's going to explain this as well. So if you have any questions when we start this unit, feel free to call me right on Google Hangouts, and I will go through a few problems with you. So do your best. Make sure you follow the order of operations. Parentheses, exponents, then we multiply and divide from the left to right, then we add and subtract from the left to right. So if you follow these steps, you will probably be successful. Do your best, and if you need me, you know how to reach me. Bye.